love what you said about community. I've seen the Wild Wild Country this on
Oh,
this
right.
kind of on
Yeah,
Netflix. Yeah,
for
well, that
sure.
was a little bit maybe taken to the extreme, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm wondering how can you create a community of maybe I don't know 100, people where I mean, not to sound too kind of, happy, happy, clappy, clappy type of scenario that I'm painting or picture.
Kumbaya community.
Yes, yes, yes. But how do you create a community of conscious people who are similar values or aligned with the type of lifestyle that you want to live? Maybe something, shared views on permaculture, for example, what you said. Um, that would be really magical. I met a couple of buddies of mine that we live together in Thailand, and we kind of started talking about this. But right now, everybody is in their own country, and it's very difficult to be able to do something as well as back then. I felt we had that type of community, so that's
Yeah.
incredibly valuable. Mm.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that's the easy thing to create either. I mean,
Mm.
there's however many, I mean, there's like the 1960s commune type of community, or like, or more of a spiritual community like the Osho
Yes.
Rajneesh community, right? Um, and often the kind of guru type of community works for a little while, and it might even be more functional because there's a leader, and
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
in a way, like, leadership creates structure, and that's easier to do than like
Yeah.
this. What is the other type of
Whether
forgetting the
there is
word
no
for it?
central, it's kind of
Yeah,
decentralized. There is no central point of
yeah.
authority.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, there's a specific word for it, but I can't remember. Um, but yeah, so that's more complicated, right? Because
Mm.
you have to share leadership. You have to be able to come to agreements. I mean,
Mm.
we every country is like a community, right? But I think we've given so much of our power away to these authorities that it doesn't really feel like not only is the whole person not being acknowledged, it's more like a um, infrastructural support community
Mm-hmm,
versus like
mm-hmm.
a holistic support community.
Yeah.
And I think that's it's more complicated because you get into like the whole human, and you have to take into account like all of their history, just the same thing as if you were in a one-on-one relationship, like all of their trauma and emotional wounding
Mm-hmm,
and everything. And
mm-hmm.
the truth is, like, as a whole, there really aren't that many mature, evolved people enough to be able to like handle all the pain that we've collectively gone through. So
Mm.
I mean, I think that's maybe why also the guru model of community has worked, because you know a singular person has done enough inner work that they can hold a lot, right? They have a much larger
Mm.
capacity to not get triggered, and they're somewhat enlightened. I know they have their shadow side too,
Of course,
um,
everybody does. Yeah.
but on some level, like, yeah, they're not just getting sucked into their childhood wounds, which is often what happens when you get into intimate relationship with
Mm-hmm,
a
mm-hmm.
single person or a group of people.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah, I mean, I have a vision to create something like that myself, and I don't know if I'm capable of it. I think it would require a group of really mature leaders to hold that. There is one model of community that I think has been pretty successful in Portugal. They're called Tamara or Tamara, and
Tomorrow. Okay.
they've been around for like 30 years or something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll definitely look it up. I'm just like listening to you. I'm just soaking everything and soaking everything.
Yeah.
I've never really thought about what you said about the fact that maybe the reason why a community like this, a model of a community breaks down is because collectively people aren't able to take in all the wounds and the pain that are actually coming up. I was listening to Paul Chick, one of his podcasts, and he was saying how, again, coming from Carl Jung, is people are developmentally arrested. Most of the people walking around are probably with the maturity of a 15-year-old or a 12-year-old or something like that. And
Yeah.
they're developmentally arrested, right? You have a boy living in a man's body. And
Hmm.
this has all kinds of problems. And I can imagine how something like this, if brought in a container of a community per se, could have a very, very negative connotations or impacts. Let's put it this way.
Yeah, yeah. And, just coming back to the topic of men's work and how
Mm,
that ties into that, like I think we learn how to mature ourselves in a group of conscious men, or that's one way, it's not, I'm not saying that's the end all solution for everything that we got to deal with, but
mm,
it is a place to work on that.
mhm,
And the what I found is the more immersed I am in that work, and the more I'm willing to bring to the table and be vulnerable and share, the more I'm able to. I mean, there's one thing that happens in that kind of container is you get, if you show up and you're vulnerable and you share your heart and your wounds, you get witnessed in these places that you might normally be too ashamed to be witnessed in, right? And that in itself is healing. Just
mm,
to be witnessed with love and acceptance in the places where you may not have even accepted yourself yet,
mhm,
incredibly healing.
mhm,
And there's a maturation that happens just from that experience, because really the unmet needs that we had that created those wounds are really just like we weren't loved there.